Hello everybody and welcome to my video on the Psijic order skill line. So this is going to be covering my thoughts and opinions as a very experienced ESO player in terms of how these skills are balancing wise, what these skills actually do, how the skills look, how the passives are, and just the general sort of cost, how I might change the skills, etc. and where the skills might be useful. So quite a bit we're going to cover here. I don't know how long this will take, maybe a fair long video. Who knows? We'll see. But basically, this is the skill line coming with Somerset patch, and this is going to cover a lot of the stuff related to the content. Basically, this is the biggest piece of content coming apart from jewelry crafting, and it is really going to change the way the game plays. I can tell you that outright right now. So what I've done is on the PTS, I've had a friend power level me through all of these skills to get this done as fast as we physically can. So all of the skills are max level to show you the cheapest possible cost and the best result. Because obviously as you level that up, that is going to progress. And that includes the ultimate. And because I have the auto respec, I will go over both things. But before we go with the skills, we're going to start with the passive. So the first passive, this is not really doing anything. This is just to do with how you level. The insight you've gained from the Psijic order grants you to vision, blah, blah, blah. Basically, this will show you rifts. I believe there's some rewards and things you can get in there. But more importantly, that's how you actually level up the skill line itself. So that's not that important. Who cares? The next one is Clairvoyance. Reduce the cost of your Psijic order abilities by 15%. So this is going to make your skills cheaper. That's obviously going to be pretty key to sustaining your skills. But hey, you're obviously going to have that skill level as you go. Now the next one is a bit different. So this is Spell Orb. This is quite complicated to understand. So when you cast a Psijic order ability while you are in combat, you generate a spell charge. When you reach 5 spell charges, you launch a spell orb at the closest enemy to you, dealing 3,800 magic damage or physical damage, whichever's higher. Now that scales on your resource pool, so if I was to take spell damage or magic out, I would hit less with that. Now, keep in mind, these spell charges must be generated within 10 seconds of each other or all charges will be lost. So let me just explain to you what that means. Outside of only one skill in this whole bar, that is irrelevant, because almost all of these, there's no way you're going to cast that 5 times within 10 seconds. The only skill that is ever going to be relevant to is Imbue Weapons. So on Imbue Weapon, this is where you, I'll explain it in a sec, it's basically like a spammable to a point. That is the only one where I believe that's going to proc. I can't see that working on any of the others. I just cannot see that actually happening. So it's not that overtuned. I think that's fine. And I think it works on the one that matters, which is damage, is giving it a little bit more burst to make it a little more varied. So I think that passive is fine. The next passive is Concentrated Barrier. So while you have a Psijic ability slotted and are blocking, you gain a damage shield that absorbs 5,000 damage. Okay, so here's the interesting bit here. Now, this passive will happen instantly when I block. Bam. But as soon as I unblock, that damage shield goes. So what this means is you're going to only get a benefit from this passive when you're blocking, holding your block, holding your block, holding your block. You've procced all of your shield down, and then you choose to drop your block. So it's going to be used very selectively by people who are only blocking on limited occasions but can hold block a bit. The only class that I can see this working on quickly, or classes, would be a Warden with one-hand shield or a Templar with one-hand shield. I don't see that happening on a Stamblade. I don't think you're going to really care about it. You just don't need it. I don't know, like Stamsork maybe, Stamdecay maybe, but I just think they're either going to block too much or too little to really get the benefit. Magicdecay, you're perma-blocking, so who cares? You're not actually going to get the cooldown because this passive procs as follows. The damage shield recharges back to full strength after you spend 10 seconds not blocking. So it's only going to be good if you're going to be dropping your block and then holding your block for short periods. The place that I see that truly being useful is a Magplar. Outside of that, I'm not a big fan. But it's fine, it's not unbalanced, and it's not broken. Last but not least, this one is a bit overtuned. While you are casting or channeling a Psijic order ability, you gain Mage Protection, reducing your damage taken by 30%. Now, this shit is kind of whack because there's one skill in particular that is a long channel. Now, it's interruptible, but because of the way interrupts were changed, you're going to be able to block yourself being interrupted. And I really, really worry that there are people who are going to make really bullshit stuff going on where they're just going to basically cast this and AFK. And then they're going to get interrupted, and then they're just going to wait for half a second and cast it again. So I guess we'll see how that actually works. I think that Mage Protection is a bit strong here. I don't mind the fact that the casting is being protected. In fact, I actually like that because there's a lot of cast times in this class skill setup. But yeah, Mage Protection perhaps a bit overtuned. My stream suggests Minor Protection, which would be 8%, but unfortunately one of the skills already gives that, so they'd have to change that. But then again, I'm going to cover that in a sec. That does need changing. Clearly, that will need changing. That's one of the most overpowered bits. Anyway, that's the passives. So, first skill. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over all of the skills for one morph, the first morph, and then we're going to go over all of the skills for the second morph, including the ulti. So, we'll do that for 2 sets. I've got a respec scroll on me. So, first is going to be Time Stop. Now, what Time Stop does is essentially a CC. It's like a ground-based AoE, pretty big cone, and anybody in there will be CC'd when it closes. There are 2 morphs of this. We're going to go for the first morph, which is going to give us negate the healing done on enemies that are stunned, and it's in channeled cast of 1.5 seconds. So what this one will do is we'll basically find our person, we'll cast our shield like so, it'll place the orb after 1.5 seconds, and when that closes the net, everybody within that AoE will get stunned. As far as I know, that's not AoE capped, so it's a big old thing. Definitely going to be getting used by raids, this one or the other of morphs. And no healing is crazy strong, but it does have that channel. Now, it's not very avoidable, but obviously you could get punished pretty easily on the block because it's a very obvious animation and it's interruptible, and frankly, you cannot animation cancel it, so you can't block that off. That's that morph of that. So it's really nice as a CC in terms of AoE. It's just that channel that's costing. And that costs 3.5 key magicka before any passives. So I've got no light armor passives. I've got no passives at all apart from Psijic. So it's relatively cheap considering. Just to show you that in comparison real fast, I'll get a nice expensive skill. Let's take Harness. So Harness with no passives would be 4.3k. Just to put that in comparison. So it's 800 cheaper than the damage shield. If anyone wondering, by the way, this is in the guild section. Next is going to be Imbue Weapons. So first of all, we're going to take the Magicka Morph here. So this is going to do as follows. Infuse your weapon with power, causing your next light attack used within 2 seconds to deal an additional 7,100 magic damage and apply the burning, concussion, or chill elemental status. So this is with gear, this is with CP, this is not with any class passives or etc. This is the only skills we've got in terms of damage. It's very cheap, just 2,100 magicka before anything. So in terms of spammable, this could honestly end up being in PvE, especially with that extra damage. I don't know how it works yet, we'll see. Yeah, it also applies a random status effect. Now this is pretty big. I can see this being used in my overload build almost certainly, which may even be up tonight. I don't know, probably tomorrow. But this is going to give us that damage and a random status effect between burning, concussion, or chill. So burning, I think, increases flame damage taken in a small dot. Chill is minor maim and a snare, and then concussion is going to give 8% extra damage and the chance for off balance, as far as I know, but don't quote me on that. So just to show you how this one looks as well, we're going to cast this. So we're going to cast number 2, and then we're going to light attack, and bam, instantly that damage comes through. 6,600, 7,000 just on that light attack. So that sounds crazy that it's a light attack, but obviously keep in mind that is taking your skill cost. So we could have cast a crushing shock or final health or whatever there. So I don't think that's broken either. I think that's fine, and I think it's an interesting skill, so I like that one personally. Who knows? Personally, I really like that, and I'm going to be using that in Overload. Next is Accelerate. This is probably my favourite skill, but I think it's slightly too strong. So the first morph of this is going to be Channeled Acceleration, and this is the morph I'm likely to use. Bend time and space around you to gain major expedition for 9 seconds, which is great, but not that OP. But minor force for 36 seconds. So that increases your crit damage by 10%, minor force, and that is a strong buff to have. 10% crit damage adds up very, very quickly, and in PvP will add that little bit of burst. I really think, again, I will be using that on my Maj Sork, but we'll see. Now, this 1.3 second cast time is not true. This definitely is more. What we did on stream to test this is I basically got a load of people in the stream to grab a stopwatch, a phone, or whatever it was. We had like 500 plus people at the time, so it was a lot of people testing. Probably about 50 or 100 did it at the time. I counted down for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go on go. Everyone press start. I did the emote, and then they press stop. You can see it yourself. If you want to grab a stopwatch, pause the video here. And then we're back. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to cast it. And that is the animation. You can't cancel that animation. I wish you could, but I could not find a way to cancel that successfully and still keep the buff. So it's more like 1.8 to 2 seconds, which is a fair cast time. but it is a very, very good buff. Like, that's a long duration of crit damage getting buffed. So it's a great skill. I do even wonder if the duration should be nerfed slightly, but we'll see. It is a long duration. If they fixed the channel time, I think at that point that they should really look at adjusting the duration. If it stays on this channel time, it actually might be alright, but we'll see. Next skill then is going to be Mend Wounds. We're going for the Mend Spirit Morph to start with. So Mend Spirit is going to do as following. Invoke the right of, God only knows what that name is, replacing your next light or heavy attack within 3 seconds with healing abilities that can be used on allies. Your light attack heals for 2,700 over 10 seconds, and your heavy attack heals for 6,080 every 1 second. Frankly, nobody in their right mind is ever going to use it on a light attack, but the heavy attack is pretty cool. So this is a really nice ability. I love the way this is, and I wouldn't say it's that OP. Now this morph is also going to grant your allies resistance buff, Major Ward, or Major Resolve. Clearly, nobody is ever going to use that morph. That morph needs to be changed because, frankly, if you're not running those, then God only knows what you're doing in PvP. But hey, who am I to say? So we have a friend here just to show you how this works. What we're going to do is we're going to press 4. I'm going to do the light attack, which will do the following. Throws a little ball on him to heal him over time. Or we can press it and we can hold and we get this large beam. And that's got a big, big range. I believe that that will work from keep walls down to people. And that will be a really interesting skill to see. And if it really is healing 6,000 a tick, that's a lot of healing. So I like that skill a lot. I think that's got a cool set of applications. And I think that it's something more useful for small scalers than Zergs in PvP. I really don't know if it's going to have relevance in PvE. I kind of doubt it. Last but not least is Meditate before the ultimate. We're going to go for the first morph here, Deep Thoughts. So Deep Thoughts. Focus your body and mind into a meditative stance, healing for 1,500 health and 1,900 magicka and stamina every 1 second. You will remain in a meditative stance until you toggle this ability off or are interrupted. So this is like a refuel, and this is going to be really, really interesting in gank setups or very mobile setups. It's very strong. It's cheap. In other words, it's free. And the return is big. Now, the other morph of this is a bit different. This morph is going to give you a bit more health and stamina. A bit more stamina and magicka back. The other morph, you'll see in a sec, is a more health-related thing, but will still give a lot of resources. Now, this thing is kind of crazy. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn through all of my stamina real fast. One more roll dodge in a sec. And then we're going to cast this. You're going to see just how fast that refuels your resources. It's very, very strong. Yeah, we'll see how this is going to work. This is definitely going to find its place into some really interesting builds. I haven't yet worked out how I'm going to use it, but yeah, I mean, that's an insane amount. That's 4k magicka and stamina regen, which is a lot. Now, something even crazier for you. Apparently, you can use that in stealth. Now, just to throw this into the equation, imagine using that in stealth with Shadow Walker. So you can't move already. You cast this skill to get your stamina and magicka back, and you're already stationary in the first place because you need to be cloaked and stationary for Shadow Walker, which is another 4k stam regen. I think that with that skill and Shadow Walker, Decima's suggesting that you need to use it while the eye is closing. If you use that and Shadow Walker, within 2 seconds, 3 seconds, you're going to have 20k stamina. It's crazy. So apparently you need to use it while the eye is closing. If you sneak and use it, you do become revealed. Just so you guys can see that. So we'll do it like as follows. We're going eyes closing, and then we use it. And now we're doing it in sneak. Instead, if we start in sneak in the first place, and then use it, we are visible. So I'm assuming that's a bug. Saying that, it looks like it only makes you visible for a sec, and then you go into stealth again. That's still pretty crazy. I imagine that will work effectively as Howling Cloak, but we'll see. Okay, last but not least is the first morph of the ultimates. This is pre-recognition. So this is going to step you back in time, resetting your health, magicka and stamina position to what they were 4 seconds ago. And it also moves your location back to where it was 4 seconds ago, as far as I know. This does not remove debuffs, so you can't remove negative effects. And this morph will also remove any CC. You can use it while you're CC'd, and it will grant you CC immunity. So let me show you that real fast. I'm going to spam this a few times, and then bam. Back we go, and we gain all of that stamina and magicka back. So again, this will be a really interesting skill to see how people find ways to use this. I really like it. It's not overpowered, it's not over cheap, because it's not really doing anything aggressive. I really see myself using this potentially as well on my Sork back bar, And I'll explain exactly how we're going to do that in a sec, because you could go streak, 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 boom, see you mate, and off you trot. We'll see how that works, but it looks really, really great. Okay, so that's all of those. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exactly the same, just to show you those costs real fast. But the way, this is 128 ultimate for pre-recognition, 3,500 for borrow time, 2,100 for elemental weapon, 2,600 for channeled acceleration, 2,100 men's spirit, and it's obviously free for meditate. So those are the costs for those skills. Now that is obviously without any passives whatsoever outside of that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to skill respec. I'm going to go over the other morph of each of those skills. So time stop, the next morph. So time stop, the other morph is going to do as follows. So again, it's going to be a CC, but this time it's an instant cast. However, it now has a duration of 4 seconds before that 3-second stun. So you'll see how this works right now. So I place the AoE, I can block cancel that, I can do whatever, but then it takes time, it builds up, bam, then it stuns. And that's how that skill is going to work. Personally, even though that's a bit annoying, I think that's more useful than the other morph. I think that's going to be the skill that a lot of groups are going to be making use of. One morph of the other. I think it's really, really nice. I love the way that skill works, and I don't think it's overpowered. It is a little dodgy to break right now, so Zenimax, if you're listening in, please make that so it's breakable a bit cleaner, because you break it and normally there's a bit of a delay. I hope that gets adjusted. Anyway, that's that one. Next skill then is Imbue Weapon. We're going to go for the Stamina morph. This is much the same. Instead it's stamina damage, so that's going to scale our damage based on R. Yep, that's obvious, stamina, but it's also going to heal you for 15% of your damage done. That is probably too strong. So Stam classes can now use this as a spammable. I want you to imagine something like a Stam Decay. So you've got a Stam Decay with all of this dot pressure, a lot of heal debuffs, a lot of dots. Now they have a very hard hitting Stam spammable. This, for a normal build, is going to be hitting somewhere between 7 and 10k damage reliably. And you could probably even get higher than that. And every single one of those attacks, every single light attack, you know, light attack this, etc., is going to be healing you for like 1 to 2k. That is going to get battle scaled, but that's essentially going to be a second vigor whilst you're fighting. So pretty strong. I don't know how I feel about that heal. It's a little harsh on Magicka, which literally just changed it to scale on Magicka, and that's it. Yeah, we'll see how that ends up working, but that seems a bit overtuned compared to the Magic Morph right now. I would like to see that adjusted slightly, all the Magic Morph adjusted, or potentially both. Anyway, next is going to be Accelerate. Again, we're going to take the second morph here, so this is going to be Race Against Time. These morphs are both good for this skill, I would say. Going to come down to preference more than anything else. So this one is bend time and space around you to gain major exposition for 3 seconds and minor force for 12 seconds. Increase your movement speed by 30% and crit damage. It's a far lower duration, 3 seconds instead of 10 for the speed, 3 seconds instead of 9, sorry, and 12 instead of 36 for the minor force. The other one is 3 times longer. But this one is an instant cast, it's not channeled, and it's also going to reduce your sprint cost by 50%. That reduces the sprint cost, clearly that needs a buff, that's garbage. But on the other hand, if they buff it too much, it will benefit stamina a bit, so it's kind of tough, maybe like 5 seconds. But yeah, we'll see whether people use that morph. I prefer the other morph myself. The duration just a little low on that in my opinion. But again, I don't think that should be changed. I think it's fine, it's a strong buff. Next is then going to be Mend Wounds. Again, second morph of this one. This is Symbiosis. Symbiosis. Invoke the write-off. Again, screw that name. I'm not trying to pronounce that. Essentially the same here, but this time you're also going to heal yourself for a percentage of the health. So we do that again. We cast this. We cast the skill, and this would heal us ourselves for the light heavy attack, or we can do the same with a light attack like so. And that's going to heal ourselves as we go. I don't know. I don't really see the application of the skill apart from total trolling by getting a group on a keep wall and spamming that shit down. But hey, maybe someone will find a way to make that work. I don't know. Next is going to be Meditate, the other morph here. So this is going to be Introspection. This is the morph that I dislike the most, I would say. But hey, who knows? So this instead is focus your body and mind into a meditative state, healing for 1716 health and restoring 1518 stamina and magicka every 1 second. Maintaining the channel increases the health restored by 10% every tick up to a max of 50%. So essentially on your max tick, you're going to be getting about 2.5k heal per second battle scale, so about 1k. So the healing is not out of tune necessarily. I would almost definitely go for the other morph myself, but maybe someone again finds a way to do that. Maybe a lot of healing CP or some weird scaling somewhere. Last but not least is where we go out of tune. So far, things that I think are overpowered. Firstly, I think Race Against Time, the Duration Morph is probably a bit too strong. This Stamina Morph of Imbue is definitely too strong. This needs to be looked again on the healing, because it's clearly overtuned against the Magicka. I don't think Time Freeze is. I don't think Symbiosis is. Meditate really needs just a general relook. I honestly think it would be fine if they change the way interrupting works again. I think if you interrupt someone, they should not have a cooldown. They should be able to be interrupted again. But I do understand why they made the change. There are certain builds that get punished pretty heavily by that. It's just a bit sad for certain skills. Maybe they even just make it so that certain skills like Dark Deal, Introspection, that sort of thing, do have that effect in the future. But we'll see how that works. For the time being, it's going to be a bit annoying to fight against, I imagine. Because you're going to have people quick who are going to use that to refuel. And then all hell breaks loose. Hell, you could run like a Sork with massive damage. Move in, nuke, and then undo your way back out of there. And lo and behold, you're good to go. But last but not least, it's going to be undo. This is the overpower bit for sure. This is a passive buff. Zenimax have not yet learned, and they will eventually. Passive buffs on ultimates are not a good idea. They just aren't, because they are always going to be used in the wrong place. Let's take Warden. Why at the moment do I use the other morph of Permafrost on my back bar? Because I want the extra Magicka. That's all it's doing there. It's not my aggressive ulti. I'm never going to attack with it, but it's giving me a fair bit of ulti. Now this morph, whole different barrel of fish. This morph is giving us minor protection at all times. 8% less damage just to have that on my bar. That affects shields, that affects you while you're blocked, you name it. And that is going to cost us 150 ult to start. But again, that's going to scale down with passives. That is very strong. And I will almost definitely backbar that on my Sork for a bit more survivability. But also, it's going to allow me that undo, which could be very valuable for the class. That has covered everything. Obviously, these will be liable to change, so try keep yourself informed with the PTS notes. If anything dramatic changes, I will go over that again in a video. But I hope that was useful for you guys. And I guess the only thing we can know is to see how that is actually going to work out. Lord only knows, basically. We will see how that ends up working out. Enjoy the video. There should also be another one. It came out earlier or coming out later with my DK build. Again, note that the DK and Sork build and all of the builds I release have a chance of changing based on changes on the PTS. And also, now that I've got Psijic, it could be affected on that.